Welcome to the New Life Stories channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching.
When you get divorced, your heart hurts in a different way. For 16 years, I'd spent learning to be a wife, to love a man who'd put only half of his effort into our marriage, and yet I'd never imagined it would end this way. The thought of starting over, knowing nothing else but being married, was truly terrifying. Moreover, the thought of starting dating again made me nauseous. It's been a year since it ended, but really, I think we broke up years earlier. He said he fell out of love, just like that. Overnight, his feelings became cold and detached, and he couldn't express them, and our relationship was irretrievably lost. I accepted his decision with dignity, although inside I had everything clogging, and my future, not clear and vague. I moved into an apartment in the city and started living on my own after a strange 16 years. I didn't care about money. I had enough to live on, but Wayne promised to take care of me for as long as I needed. I couldn't be mad at him because he'd always been a nice guy overall. We just didn't love each other anymore. It was just the way it was. No one mentions the depth of loneliness after divorce. They talk about how terribly sad and scary it is, but in marriages that break up slowly like ours, it's not as shocking. Instead, loneliness comes to the forefront. It's a lot to come to terms with, but loneliness was the reason you were hesitant to break up for a long time, because it was nice to have someone rather than no one at all. One evening, bored alone and reaching the point of despair, I remembered how earlier one of my friends suggested me to think about new dating. The conversation was amusing, to say the least. I couldn't understand why anyone would want to date an almost 50-year-old man with a broken heart. She assured me that I should give it a try anyway, and that maybe I would feel better if I had company. So, against my better judgment, I Googled what dating app was trending right now and downloaded Find Your Match on my phone. The questions were overwhelming. Describe yourself in 50 words. What are you looking for? And many others that I didn't know how to answer. If I had known what I was looking for, I probably would have found it by now. One thing I knew for sure, I certainly wasn't looking for love. After the grueling work of setting up my profile was done, it was time to upload a photo. Scrolling through my phone's photo album, I couldn't find a single picture of myself. They were all with Wayne. I have yet to archive them. Knowing that these days photos are the first step to dating, I walked over to my dresser to apply some lip and eyelash makeup. What started out as just a little lip and eyelash makeup ended up turning into a whole face makeup. I hadn't dressed up like this in a while, and it felt good to feel like I was in my feminine element. Next, I turned to my closet to find something appropriate that said I was ready for anything that came my way. What was the worst that could happen? I put on a top that I knew Wayne liked. It emphasized my collarbones and showed off just the right amount of cleavage. I've been told more than once that I looked good for my age by strangers and friends alike. One thing I never stopped doing was taking care of my body. I exercised regularly and spent a lot of time taking care of my hair and skin. Although my age in years was closer to 50, on good days I easily passed myself off as a 40-year-old. Dimming the lights, I positioned myself in front of the camera in my most favorable pose. A few clicks later, I checked the results and selected one photo that I thought might work. I shook my head, chuckling at the absurdity of it all and how it could have all worked out. After that, it was time to swipe potential companions left or right based on what they looked like and how far away from me they were. I swiped left once, then again, then many more times, and I hadn't made a single right swipe yet. I was beginning to feel discouraged. Most of the men were under 25, and most of them were in their early 30s, no more. One or two profiles with men over 50 looked so old that I wasn't interested. The last thing I needed was a boring man who couldn't keep up with me. Wayne was 10 years younger than me. I doubted I'd ever find a man like that again. As I married a younger man, I found that there was more energy and excitement in men compared to those who were older. I doubted that it was the difference in maturity level that could have caused our marriage to fall apart. It was best for me to date people my own age. Not young, Not old, but the same. A glass of wine in my hand, after a few sips, and my reasoning faltered. Frustrated with my bad luck in this whole ordeal, I decided to opt for the wild card and swipe right on whoever was next on the app. I remember laughing when I saw that he was 24 years old and looked more like a young man than a man. Without thinking about anything else, I went to bed with no expectations. The next morning, I wiped my eyes, waking up drowsy. Last night had passed like a blur, a comical night full of despair. I chuckled to myself as I saw my clothes from last night lying in a heap on the floor. What happened the night before was a joke. At least now I could laugh about it. Pouring milk into my cereal bowl, I wasn't fully awake yet, and then my phone beeped with a new sound. Confused, I checked my phone and found a notification that I had a message from someone on a dating app. There was no way this could be real. I was sure it must be some kind of mistake. I opened the app to check who the message was from and gasped when I saw the name David in front of me. The very man I had chosen last night was now sending me private messages. I was even more surprised when I read what it said. "I'm so glad you wrote to me. You are so attractive for your age. I always wanted to experience an older woman. What are your plans for tonight? Would you like to change them?" His words were smooth as butter. I was both thrilled and horrified at the possibility of such a proposal. With nothing planned and feeling brave at this hour of the morning, I texted him back. "You're sweet. What's on your mind?" The waiting began. I caught myself checking my phone every few minutes, vacillating between the fact that he must not have seen the message yet and the fact that he must be joking. Eventually, my phone beeped. Dinner. A few more texts back and forth, and we scheduled our date for tonight. I was excited all day until the doorbell rang and he was waiting outside the door. It was a nice evening. I was a little embarrassed that I was with a man who was much younger than me. I didn't want people ogling, but David was obliging and didn't mind. There were light touches during dinner. His hand reached for mine. Every now and then he would gently smack it. The chemistry was instantaneous. He knew what to do to warm me up, and it didn't bother him that he had a boyish appearance. Both he and I were less interested in the food and more eager to finish it. He looked at me with one eyebrow raised and a smirk, as if inviting me to move on to the next part of the evening. I smiled cheekily. We headed back to my apartment, since his house was farther away and we didn't want to waste any time. In the elevator going up to my floor, he hugged me from behind, his arms loosely resting on my sides in a very seductive manner. "I can't wait," he whispered in my ear from behind. I felt electricity run down my spine. The desire was so strong. I'd been nervous all day, thinking about how this was going to go, and here I was with him by my side. We stumbled to my door. Another older couple was just coming out of theirs and saw us kissing while I tried to put my keys in the lock. They turned their faces the other way in disgust. I was too engrossed in his lips on mine to take offense. The key slipped inside, and when the door opened, he was completely relaxed. He kissed me even harder, pressing me against the wall. Never before had I been so passionately desired. His youthful energy was making me lose control. He canceled all my dinner preparations, and I gave myself to him completely. He spent more time kissing and teasing than I was used to. He enjoyed the process, and so did I. It ended in complete euphoria. Afterwards, I lay in bed and tried to realize how and what had happened. It was like a crazy dream come to life, and my most secret fantasy turned into reality. Still covered in sweat and smells foreign to me, I resisted getting up and taking a shower. I realized how much I had missed, and immediately, as I lay on the bed, I realized that I was so afraid of being alone, and how long I had been alone. Even when I was married, I was still alone. Maybe now that I am free to explore and have company to my liking, I can experience something different like tonight. Not surprisingly, the next morning, David, like a true gentleman, texted me and suggested we get together again. Even though I now understood exactly what was meant by the plans, I was more than happy to be satisfied. Like I said, I wasn't looking for love. With this newfound confidence, I went back to the dating app with a completely different mindset and started flipping through it left and right, disregarding the ages of the men I wanted to chat with. What led me to this was a drunken mistake. Later that night, my ex-husband called to check up on me. He did this from time to time, and usually I enjoyed our little chat. Today, however, I was in a hurry. "How are you doing?" "How are you?" Wayne asked on the phone. "Fine, thanks," replied I, trying not to slip on my heels at the same time. "You seem to be in a hurry," he asked, embarrassed. "Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a date tonight. Let's talk to you later," I replied quickly, knowing that David would be waiting for me downstairs in a few minutes. "Sure, okay. Talk to you later," he managed to say and hung up. I knew it annoyed him and he probably wanted to know more, but I was too excited about my date with David. I was glad to have passion and possibly love back in my life. Do you think it was a good idea to start enjoying dating younger people like this, considering my age? Let me know in the comments and see you next time. Dear friends, thank you very much for watching. Put likes, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel.